and welcome back to Programming with Irene. In this episode, let me show you this funny running game I built in Scratch. Let's jump right in. Let's open a new project in the Scratch editor. We can see the default white backdrop and our cat sprite is already loaded. We can start by adding a start screen for our game. Open up the costume editor for our backdrop. Paint the backdrop with some color like this one. We can fill the background with this color using the Paint Bucket tool. Before that, make sure to click this Convert to Bitmap button. Okay, this looks good. Time to add the title. Let's grab the text tool and add the title. I'm going to call it Run Tommy Run. Done. Changing the style to this pixel one. Looks nice. Also, I'm using this red color. We can start the game by pressing the space key, and for jumping, we can use the up arrow key. Add some text to show this to our player. Next up, we can add our backdrop and the code for the backdrop. I'm going to add this blue sky backdrop. We can show the start screen when the game starts by combining the switch costume and green flag blocks like this. We can start playing once the space key is pressed, and we switch to the blue sky backdrop using the key pressed block. Now, to tell our other sprites about this, we can broadcast a message and wait. Looks like most of our backdrops are done. Let's move on to the sprites now. Let's move the cat somewhere else, above the ground. Now, add the When Message Received block and select the Start Game message. Now, attach the Go To block from the Movement section. We will be making our ground move to make our cat look like running. To do that, we need to make a sprite for our ground. To draw a ground sprite, click on the Paint a Sprite button and paint to your liking. We can position in the ground on top of our blue sky backdrop, like this. Now, similar to our cat sprite, we should add a Go To block to make our sprite stay in the bottom. If we press Start now, we can see the ground is displayed even before the start of the game. To fix this, we can hide the ground when the green flag is clicked. Now, move the Go To block under the When Message Received block. We should also add the Show block before that. Now, it correctly hides and displays the ground when the game starts. To make our ground moving, we can add a Forever block to our Start Game block. Then, we can start moving towards the left side of the screen. To do this, add the Change X by block and set the value to something like -10. We need to make the ground appear again once it reaches the edge of the screen. To do this, we can add an if block and add our condition. If x position lesser than -250, we can get the x position from the movements block. We can set its x position to say 200 if the condition is true. We should also increase the length of our ground. We can copy the ground in the costume editor and paste it here. We can arrange these to make it overlap. Now that it is done, we need to make some way of making our cat fall to the ground. In real life, we have gravity for this. Let's add some gravity to our game as well. For this, I'm going to add a variable and call it gravity. We can use this in our cat sprite. Add a forever loop and inside, we can add a condition. If the cat is touching the ground, we can make him stay there. To do this, add an if-else block and the if touching block and select the ground sprite from the drop-down. If we are touching the ground, we can set the gravity to 0 using this set block from the variables section. Else, we can decrease the gravity by 1 using the change variable block. We can set the value to -1. Now, to make it fall, add the change y block and combine our gravity. To make the cat jump, we can modify the gravity if the up arrow key is pressed. To do this, we can add an if block here inside the touching ground block. The condition should be to check for the up arrow key pressed. If pressed, we can change y by some value like 5 or 10 and then also get the gravity to a bigger value. Let's say like 15. Let's try running it. And the cat is stuck behind the ground sprite. We can fix this by bringing the cat to the front layer by adding this go to the front layer block. We can also make the cat look like it's running. We can do this by switching costumes with some delay, like 0.2 or 0.3 seconds. I'm adding another forever block outside of our other code to switch up costumes. One more thing that we need is life. We start the game with 3 lives. If we hit some enemies, life will be reduced. They will pop up randomly. I chose this crab sprite to be our enemy. We can use a life variable to hold this. I'm going to set the initial value as 3. We can hide the crab by default. When the game starts, we can make our crab pop up randomly by combining this random interval block and create a clone of myself block. Add a repeat until block and choose this touching block as the condition. We are going to check for the edge of the screen. If it is touching the edge, then make it disappear and the next clone will appear. We can change x by a -10. Now, add a condition for checking if we are touching the cat. If we are touching the cat, then we can decrease our life by 1. If life is 0, then we can display a game over screen. I'm going to make this game over backdrop very quickly. After that, we can choose this switch backdrop block and also this stop all block to stop the game. Added the delete myself block in the correct places. To show the life, we can add some sprite. And based on the value of the life, we can show the sprites. For example, we can add this apple sprite to show our life points. In the costume editor, we can make 4 costumes for 3 lives 2 lives, 1 life, and 0 lives. This way, when life is reduced, we can switch the costume in this sprite by sending a message life changed. We can add a message received block and change the costume accordingly. Let's try it out. I'm pressing space to start and jumping over the crab. This is fun! We can play this game all day long. Now, I want to see what happens if we lose our lights. And here we go. Game over. Share it with your friends and family. And feel free to play around and add some cool stuff like sound effects. Please do like, share and subscribe to my channel. See you all in the next episode with some cool stuff. Until then, bye-bye and take care.